Josef Mengele died on a beach in Brazil in 1979. Free, wealthy, never caught. His gravestone read Wolfgang Gerhard. Locals had no idea Hitler's angel of death was buried under their sand. Heinrich Himmler died in British custody in 1945. Cyanide between his teeth 3 weeks after Germany surrendered. Hermann Göring died the same year. Night before his execution, cyanide smuggled into his Nuremberg cell. All three were Nazi war criminals. All three had access to escape routes called ratlines networks that smuggled thousands of Nazis to South America. So why did Mengele escape while Himmler and Göring died in Allied hands? If you appreciate deep dives into historical mysteries like this, I'd be grateful if you'd consider liking this video and subscribing to the channel. It helps more people discover these important stories. The answer is simpler and darker than you think. How recognizable your face was when Germany fell. But first, you need to understand what the ratlines were. May 1945. Germany has fallen. The Allies are hunting Nazi war criminals. The SS is dissolved, the camps liberated, and thousands of Nazis are running. They called them ratlines. Secret escape routes from Germany through Austria and Italy to South America. Mainly Argentina, Brazil, Paraguay. The routes were organized by sympathetic Catholic bishops, Red Cross officers that issued travel documents without verifying identities, and intelligence agencies like the CIA that recruited useful Nazis. Between 1945 and 1950, an estimated 5,000 to 9,000 Nazis fled using ratlines. Adolf Eichmann, Josef Mengele, Klaus Barbie, Franz Stangl. If you could disappear, if nobody recognized your face in the chaos of 1945, you could board a ship in Genoa as a refugee and step out in Buenos Aires a free man. So why didn't Himmler and Göring use these routes? The answer lies in one critical difference: recognition. And what happened to each man reveals everything. Heinrich Himmler, Reichsführer SS, architect of the Holocaust. Himmler's iconic round glasses haunted every Allied guard. His photo had been in every intelligence briefing, every newspaper, every wanted poster for 12 years. When Hitler committed suicide on April 30th, 1945, Himmler had already been dismissed. Hitler discovered he'd tried to negotiate surrender behind his back. When Germany surrendered on May 8th, Himmler went into hiding, shaved his mustache, wore an eye patch, dressed as a sergeant, carried papers saying Heinrich Hitzinger. For 2 weeks, he wandered northern Germany trying to reach Bavaria. He didn't make it. On May 23rd, British troops stopped him at a checkpoint near Bremervörde. The soldiers didn't recognize him immediately, but they noticed the oddly shaved upper lip where his famous mustache had been, the distinctive spectacles he couldn't hide. And here's where the escape failed. During inspection, Himmler revealed his identity. "I am Heinrich Himmler." Why? He thought his rank would get him better treatment, that he could still negotiate. It didn't. The British arrested him. During examination, Himmler bit down on a cyanide capsule hidden in his back molar standard SS issue. Dead in 12 minutes. But even if he hadn't identified himself, the ratlines wouldn't have worked. And the reason reveals the entire system. The ratlines worked for obscure Nazis, camp guards, SS administrators, men whose faces weren't on posters. When Josef Mengele fled Auschwitz in January 1945, he just walked away. American forces even captured and released him. They didn't know who he was. When he reached the ratlines in 1949, he sailed to Argentina. For years, he lived in Buenos Aires using his real name, attended social events. Easy. But Himmler, number 2 on the Allied war criminal list. His face had been everywhere. The ratlines required invisibility. Unknown enough that a bishop wouldn't recognize you, that you could live in Buenos Aires without someone saying, "Wait, isn't that?" Himmler could never be invisible. And Hermann Göring? He didn't even try to run. Hermann Göring, Luftwaffe commander, Hitler's successor until the final days. When the war ended, Göring drove toward American lines in a convoy of luxury cars loaded with stolen art. He surrendered himself on May 8, 1945, walked right up to them. Why? Göring believed he'd be treated as a fellow officer, that the Allies would respect his rank, that he could negotiate from dignity. Wrong. Arrested immediately. By November, on trial at Nuremberg. At Nuremberg, Göring became a celebrity prisoner. So charming that some guards reportedly liked him. One said, "He runs this cell block." Could Göring have used the rat lines? Technically, yes, but his ego wouldn't allow it. Göring was sentenced to death by hanging, execution scheduled for October 16, 1946. The night before, he swallowed cyanide in his cell. How he got it remains a mystery, possibly from a guard, possibly hidden for months. Dead at 10:45 p.m., the Allies hanged his corpse anyway, cremated him, scattered his ashes. So why did rat lines work for Mengele? Josef Mengele, the angel of death, conducted experiments on prisoners at Auschwitz. He should have been one of the most wanted, but he escaped, lived free for 34 years, died of a stroke while swimming in Brazil, ironically, helping a friend's child. How? First, timing. Mengele left Auschwitz in January 45, early while chaos covered his tracks. Himmler and Göring stayed until the end. Second, obscurity. In 45, Mengele's face wasn't famous. Most survivors never saw it close. Their liberators had never seen it at all. It wasn't until the 1950s that photos circulated. By then, he'd vanished. Third, support. His wealthy family sent money. Nazi networks in South America helped. Little Germanys arose where Germans protected each other. Fourth, no remorse. In 2004, his diaries were published. He wrote, "I have not regretted my conduct." He believed himself the victim. Fifth, priority. After the war, the Allies had a list. Top tier, Hitler, Himmler, Göring, Goebbels. Maximum effort, Mengele, third tier. Important, but lower priority initially. He fell into the gap, important enough to be on lists, not important enough for massive manhunts. And the Cold War changed everything. By 1947, some Nazis became assets, intelligence value, anti-communist work. But Himmler and Göring? Too famous, too stained. They had to face justice or die trying. Evil comes in two forms. Visible evil, leaders, faces on posters, men who give orders from podiums. Invisible evil, executioners, doctors, guards, men who actually do the killing. Himmler and Göring were visible evil. They stood next to Hitler in newsreels. The world knew their faces. Mengele was invisible evil. He worked in Auschwitz's shadows. Only his victims knew his face and most were dead. After the war, the world wanted to punish visible evil. Public trials, executions, examples. Invisible evil. They slipped through. Thousands of camp guards, SS administrators, Gestapo officers lived in peace. Not because they were smarter, because their faces weren't famous. In 1985, investigators exhumed Mengele's remains from that Brazilian beach. Dental records confirmed the angel of death had died free. His gravestone still read Wolfgang Gerhard, a final lie. Heinrich Himmler died in British custody, May 23, 1945. Buried in an unmarked grave. Hermann Göring died in his Nuremberg cell, October 15, 1946. Ashes scattered. Josef Mengele died on a Brazilian beach, February 7, 1979. Buried under a false name. Why did Mengele escape while Himmler and Göring died in Allied hands? Because ratlines required anonymity. Himmler and Göring's faces had been in newspapers for 12 years. They'd stood beside Hitler in every newsreel. When Germany fell, they couldn't become invisible. Mengele could. His face wasn't famous. He walked away, got false papers, sailed to Argentina, lived free for 34 years. The lesson: obscurity helps evil escape. The greatest monsters aren't always the most famous. Sometimes they're the ones whose names we never learned, whose faces we never saw. Those are the ones who escaped. Today at Auschwitz, you'll see Mengele's photo. Survivors documented his crimes, made sure history remembers. But he never faced trial, never spent a day in prison. He died on a beach, an old man, far from justice. Himmler and Göring died captured or cornered. History remembers them all as monsters. But Mengele died free, buried under someone else's name where no one knew who he was. Sometimes the lesson isn't about justice. It's about how easily evil can hide if it stays in the shadows long enough.